Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where it's about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Walking Dead World Beyond. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, we're literally picking up right where the last episode left off. Iris trying to kill the same walker. And obviously, and I think it's kind of a neat, interesting thing. I feel like I don't remember this coming up earlier in The Walking Dead, but maybe there have been instances of it. I don't think so. Where because there's been instances like Alexandria, maybe Hilltop had some. I think Alexandria had like full-blown classrooms, didn't they? I don't remember, but like learning how to operate in this world, it's so interesting to have a full-blown classroom. I mean, like this is your new reality, so you need to, because I feel like with The Walking Dead, it's always been like you learn by experience. But I guess because they've got enough young people that it's easier just to do it in a school format with everyone around. But obviously, Iris has a hard time killing this walker because none of them have experience. They've had practice, like, combat training. It's all been simulations. I mean, more so like it was just all knowledge based. There was nothing that they were able to like put into action physically. So like none of them are prepared for this. And it's so interesting because it's something we've never really seen before. I mean, it makes sense. They were all kids when this all went down, and they've been behind walls. They've never had to experience. They've never really had to fight for themselves. Obviously, like people like Huck and Felix, obviously they have experience with this, but this is new to them. So Iris, is trying her best. It's like, if you can't go for the head, sweep under the legs. But every time she hits, she's just tiring herself out, which Felix, in the lesson is like literally at everything that Felix is saying, Iris tries but fails. And then there's that moment where she falls and the walker falls with her, but it gets stabbed on her trait. And she's like, yeah, I got this. And she's ready to do it. And then she throws up on it. And then she's like, see, that's what you get. And they leave the walker just because. I think it's just maybe hesitation because it's like, for one, it's like regardless if these things are dead or not, they've never killed anything or anyone. So that's not something they're used to yet. I mean, even later on, Silas has an opportunity when he's trying to protect Elton, but he can't do it because I think it's just something that it doesn't come natural, especially when you spent your entire lives never doing this. Like, once again, these are dead, but I think it's not the easiest thing to take a life. They're not going down the whole Morgan route of not doing it. It's just like they just can't. They're just so inexperienced. But it is interesting as the discussions go on because obviously you have the Hope and Elton, who you can make the argument are probably the most pessimistic of the group. Because Elton believes that this is just nature. He's like, sooner or later humanity would have just wiped itself out because we were already heading down that direction. It's just Mother Nature just sped it up rapidly. So, and obviously Hope is someone who does believe that. She's like, because Elton's like, yeah, we got maybe at most 15 years left, before all of humanity's wiped out. And she's like, 15 years? I'm surprised. She's like, I actually thought it was going to be a lot less. So obviously Hope's reasons for being pessimistic, I think, comes from her situation when she was younger. Once again, she hasn't confided in Iris that everything that went down. She thinks her mom died. She probably assumes it was by a walker or something else, empty. But she doesn't know, obviously a lady shot her, and then she had to, she accidentally shot the lady. I mean, the lady accidentally shot her, but, Hope accidentally shoots her, which obviously, once again, she doesn't know that was Elton's mom. Elton doesn't know that Hope's the one that killed his mom either, so I think all that, especially because for her later on, she even talks to Silas because Silas felt bad because he didn't kill that walker. It ended up following them later on when they're resting. And for Hope, it's like, you don't need to you basically don't need to be haunted by your mistakes. Like, what are your mistakes? Even if they are your own, you shouldn't spend the rest of your life being haunted by them, which is so interesting and ironic coming from her, considering she's continuously being haunted because, it's like every time she thinks about her mom, she's thinking about the fact is her mom's gone, and the fact of the matter is she killed that lady, and she has a constant reminder of it. And maybe it's just kind of like why she necessarily keeps it. I guess maybe it is a reminder of what she did, because maybe that holding on to that is a reminder of maybe in her mind it's like, my mom got killed but I got justice for my mom. Or maybe it's just a reminder of she always wants to remember, she wants to hold on to that because my mom died and and then I killed a lady who did, and because even she's reluctant to kill later on when she's facing that walker alone. I think it's because, once again, like, I think she, amongst anyone else, definitely doesn't want to kill, because I'm sure, like, you know, it's stuck with her all these years. She's haunted by it. Once again, she's never confided in anybody about it, so she's been holding on to that the entire, you know, time, you know. But it's interesting because, like, everyone has their own, like, obviously, like, Iris and Hope are doing this because they want to get to their dad. Elton, you know, he wants to see everything before the end. He wants to see what the world has become. He wants to see what this world looks like before it all comes in, like, you know. And Silas has his own reasons. For whatever reason, he's like, yeah, no matter what, I can't go back. And then it's like, why? I mean, we saw a little bit hints of it, like the way people treated him, but it's like, oh yeah, did you hear about what he, it's like, but a lot of about Silas is still a mystery. He seems like he's kind of like the big-hearted giant type of situation, like the kind-hearted giant, where it's just kind of like, but beyond, I mean, who knows? That could be like, maybe he's, some shit went down. I mean, obviously shit went down with everyone's lives, so who's to say the same thing isn't for him, and maybe that past is coming to haunt him as well. I mean, maybe that's why he feels so regrettable, because maybe in the past he didn't take action either, or maybe he did take action, so that's why he's constantly apologetic to everyone, because of something in his past. But Elton's, you know, wanting to continue the study of, like, the migration patterns, because he's even noticing, like, oh, like, looking at, like, you know, what they look like as they decay more and more, and it come across when they're like, oh, how he ended up like that, and it looks like, basically, it looks like bees made a hive out of this particular walker. But also, like, there's this thing known as the BOG, the Blaze of Glory. Like, obviously, no one really knew for sure. At least they didn't really know for sure. It's, like, believed to be, like, tires are on fire, which I never knew this. Like, apparently tires can burn for a very, very long time. Never knew that. But it's like it builds up a whole bunch of smoke. They could go around, but Iris is like, no, we're going to go straight for. Which immediately, a lot of this, I'm like, man, you kids don't know what the hell you're doing. You know? Like, obviously I would. I'm inexperienced. I wouldn't know what I'd do, but I feel like as an adult, I'd have a better grasp of it. I guess it's because we've seen so many people have a better grasp of it, to see them, like, bumbling their way through it. Because, like, the last time I feel like I remember seeing a character kind of bumble their way around this situation was probably Carl, like, earlier on in the show. Obviously, like, things kind of changed for him, but at least he had other people to kind of help point him in the right direction. They're kind of out here on alone. Yes, they had their lessons and stuff like that, but they've never had anyone be there with them while they're putting it into practice. Carl had other people around him, so I think that made his situation a little better. I mean, hell, like, let's be frank, Judith handles her this type of stuff better than him, but once again, the upbringing and stuff, you have, like, Michonne for a mom, you know, training you and readying you up. Like, you've got so many people in your corner while they're kind of out here kind of doing it alone, learning as they go type of situation. But the whole conversation, too, kind of continuing with the Hope and Elton situation, was like, obviously, it's like, you know, it's like, you said that, you know, 15 years is going to be the end for us. Does that scare you? And he's like, no. Because for him, he talks about the fact of the matter is that they're going to be the last generation. And he's like, they're called endlings. That's the last of a species. But he was like, no, it's not the last generation. It's the very last. So basically, the endling of the human race would be the last person who is left alive. And he's like, you know, because he's like, because we are the last generation, that actually makes us so special. You know, and he's like, I'm proud, you know, I'm glad to be that special. You know, it makes you kind of this rarity, because who knows if there will be a future generation beyond them. But even in a situation of, like, that last human, it makes them so special too, because it's like their journey, like, basically that final human, what they do, what they're capable of doing, what they end up accomplishing is a reflection on basically all of humanity, because basically that endling, that one last human being who's the last of the species, basically everything that humanity is reflected by this person, by their end and everything. So it's interesting. And obviously even Hope admits, like, yeah, it bothers her. It scares her. And I think it's so interesting, because you would assume, and even Hope talks about it, like, Iris is the one making all these decisions, kind of like stumbling forward, and then Hope is like, we should go back or something. Like, she doesn't want to do this, to the point she is leaving stuff behind for Huck and Felix to find, because she knows that they're following behind. And it's so interesting too with the perspective of Huck and Felix, like Felix assumes the one that's like all about this is Hope, which is ironic considering it's actually Iris that's the one that's so gun-ho about it. And obviously this whole thing doesn't sit right with him because obviously it's like these are people that are important to him. They were under his, because obviously he's wondering like, what were those messages about from Leo? The fact of the matter is, why would he threaten everything, our alliance with the CR, just to get some messages across? Like, what, something's not right here. Obviously, Huck's basically like, they get shit done, but obviously Felix he's like, the fact of the matter is, we don't know where these people come from, so they kept that quiet, plus no communications in or out. That means specifically it starts within, so meaning that no one within that group, wherever they're at, can communicate out. Like, why do you have such a rule and everything? Why do you keep yourself isolated enough that you know everything there is to know about other groups, but no one knows jack shit about yours? I mean, obviously considering where last week's episode left off, they're unaware, the kids are unaware of what went down back in the community. So many things. And obviously as we're spending time with Huck and Felix, we learn a little bit more about Felix's background, like the day his dad found out he was gay and kicked him out, calling him the F word. And Felix was like, I love you, but you don't have the right to call me that, because it seems like Felix is taking care of his family. He's paying the bills and stuff like that because his dad's kind of falling apart. And you never really get the ins and outs of it, but it seems like his mom is sick, and that his dad's kind of having a rough time. Maybe they're stuck home kind of taking care of her, and Felix is the one making money. But the moment it comes out that he's gay, it's like, get out. It's like, what? He's like, if I leave, I will never come back, and you will have to live with that. And he's like, then I will. And Felix is like, here, writing down, I guess it's like the number to the account or something like that. He's like, we don't need your help. And he's like, please. And it's like, I don't get that. Like, to me, it doesn't, it's because the thing is, there's people like that, and I'm like, why is someone's sexual orientation such a big deal? Like, I guess maybe his family's super religious or something, and it's against everything they believe in. I don't know. I mean, obviously there are religious people who still are supportive of homosexuality, so that's why I'm just like, why are you so stubborn against it? Because obviously what drives Felix too is like, because obviously like Hope and Iris had talked about this while they're walking down the street. It's like, didn't we used to take piano lessons here before? Like, Iris did, because Hope, like, I gave up on him. But Felix, it's hitting him a little bit because he's like, this was his hometown, like his home wasn't too far away, so for him it's just kind of like being back hits him with a whole bunch of emotions because he remembers the day the sky fell, everything went to shit. He raced home. He even says that later on, it took him 2 days, mostly by foot, to get back home. And he's struggling with that because when because even Huck's asking, like, when you did get home, like, were they there? And he did come home. His family was there, but his dad was like, we don't need your help. It's like, the world is ending. I'm here to help you. I'm home. He was calling out to his mom, but his mom didn't respond. I take that as either his mom was like, oh, you're dead to me as well, because we never heard her. Like I said, I'm assuming she's sick. I assume what went down is she got sick. She was sick. She ended up dying. She turned, and then she killed Felix's dad and turned him as well. Because Felix ends up sneaking off later on, and he goes there, because we find out later on, because obviously you see that Huck notices that, like, as he's like messing with the gun, he's got blood on the bottom of his hand. So it's like, even later on she asked him, like, what did you do? He said, I went there to kill my parents. Because it's just like, because obviously for Huck, it's like, she doesn't talk about her past because she's like, oh yeah, I've got to keep some mystique. It's just part of my character and stuff like that. But also it's like, she's like, the past is the past. And obviously, regardless of that statement, not everyone can let go of the past. I think Huck says that, but I'm sure even she's haunted by the past. She just doesn't want to talk about it because I think talking about it makes it more real. And obviously being in the vicinity of it all, like, obviously, Felix felt the need to go back. And because I think there's a part of him that's like, he assumes that his mom and dad are dead and they're most likely walkers inside the house, but he doesn't know for sure because there's walkers in there. That doesn't mean, but I guess for him it's like there's a good chance that's them. But for what we saw, he couldn't bring himself to actually go in the house. I mean, who knows? Maybe he does have blood on him, so either he, on the way back, he killed a few other walkers, or maybe he did actually, because when we saw it, he walked away, but it's like maybe, well, at least because a camera cuts away to him present day walking towards that walker. So maybe as his back was turned, he did, like, even though it cut away, maybe he did go in there. Like, we don't really know whether he walked away or whether he actually did go in there to kill them. And that can't be the easiest thing, going in and killing your parents, especially, like, regardless of how much they suck. Because even, you know, Huck says it, like, no matter how shitty they are, they're still your parents. And it's like, you feel an obligation, because maybe he feels like, it wasn't just on my dad. I'm sure for him, he blames himself. That he's like, I should have still stuck around. I should have done something different, regardless if they accepted me or not. I should have done something for them, and they're gone now because, you know, my inability or something like that. So I think he internalizes a lot of that as well, you know. So there's that side of things, to the point he's not sleeping or resting, because I guess because of that trauma, feeling like he failed his parents, I think he feels even more obligated. Like, I got to protect these kids, because I think maybe when he was around their same age, he wasn't protected. You know, his dad didn't protect him, and it's like, their dad left me in charge of them, so I owe their dad, you know, so much, because obviously, I think because of his own upbringing, he probably latched onto Leo and his kids a little bit, they are his family. So I think because it's like, my family was a messed up situation, I was never taken care of, I'm not going to let that same thing happen. I'm going to be there for these kids, you know, despite the situation with their dad and everything. That's what I kind of take from it. Obviously, with everything going on, I did thought it was kind of, I did skip over it, but I did like that whole Big Mo thing, just them kind of laughing and enjoying it. But like I said, just their risk taking is just nuts. Like, once again, like, Hope didn't even kill that one. She was just trying to lead it away, and she ended up falling, and that could have been super bad, because even she admits it. Like, you want us to go through the BOG, and, like, we came across 2 walkers, and we failed miserably, and you want us to kind of go through that. That place looks like a mess. But Iris thinks that they can do it, because none of them want to go back, feel like they can go back. Even later on, Hope leaving the message, we are the Endlings. But when the time comes, they're making their way through, but the smoke blots out the sun, and Iris doesn't know necessarily where to go. It's a little touch and go, but luckily they make it to the fence, but it turns out there's more to the BOG. Like, they thought it was just going to be over the fence, and we get to I guess it's where, like, the aircrafts are, like, they're going to that direction, but it's like, nope, there's even more you have to get through. Elton suggests, hey, there's a siren, one of us, you know, yes, he's like, no, I'm not saying bait. Okay, yes, one of us has to be bait, but Iris is like, no, she's not going to do it, because she's bringing it up to Hope, like, yeah, you were right that we should have never done this. But for Hope, it's like, I'm shitty, I don't care about people, I don't care about anything. But she's like, look at you, like, you are brave. I mean, look at what you were able to accomplish, regardless of what ends up happening. The fact of the matter is, you were able to take that chance, that you were willing to be here. I think for her speaks volumes. So I think maybe because of everything that's flowing through her mind, because of what happened to her mom, what she did, I think for her, it's like, I kind of am the least necessary in all of this. Like, it's almost like, it's sadly like there is a part of her that's like, if I die, I die. It's just kind of what I deserve. So she's setting herself up to be the sacrifice. And it's like, because you saw her sitting there and like a tear rolling down her eyes, because I think it's, you know, once again, she told Silas to forget about, you know, past, they shouldn't define you, but it's like her mistake haunts her and defines her. And so I think because of that, she's willing to take such risks, because much like Felix, I feel like, well, maybe the opposite of Felix, because she feels like, I failed my mom, I don't want to fail anyone else, so she wanted to get that walker away from everyone else, because I think it's also to show that, hey, I can do this, you know, that, you know, I'm not that I do care about other people. I mean, I think that's why she probably comes off a little towards people. It's just because, you know, she's just under the assumption, like, she's just going to lose everyone because she lost her mom and just everything that went down. I think it you know, as a trauma like that kind of breaks you a little. And I think, you know, I'm curious in the long run to see what this means for her. Because obviously it's like, oh, like, whoever sounds the alarm should be able to get away, but just like, that's a should be. I mean, especially because you guys don't really 100% know what you're doing. So presents a lot of interesting aspects. I think this is an interesting thing that The Walking Dead kind of does anyway. Like, they make very small stories, and this is a very small story in that regard of, like, we literally bounce between only two groups. Because obviously there's some episodes where you literally stay with like one particular main character and the entire episode. Obviously that's happening, like, you know, from what little I've seen of the Fear the Walking Dead, because I am currently watching it. If you're curious, I'm like episode, I think, 4 of season 3 right now. Yeah, there's episodes like that. It's just interesting that we are bouncing back and forth between Felix and Huck as well as the kids, not even touching on whatever it is with the CR and just what went down back home, you know. So, but I am curious to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.